Hello everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Today's topic is probably the #1 topic everyone will be dealing with when shit hits the fan. It's called fear. It influences our decision, all of our decision. It causes us to take action. It causes inaction. So let's get down and talk about how that affects us, you, me, everyone, as preppers. What's going to happen when shit hits the fan? Fear is a big topic. So, growing up in a city and getting chased and beat up by bullies and typical stuff that used to happen that kids don't have to deal with anymore, you learn at a pretty early age that fear is just a part of life. In fact, it is considered the prime motivator. Right? People make decisions based on fear. They don't want to, be different. There's a huge, massive fear of what other people think about us. Right? And I've talked about that in the past. It's the fear of what other people think that cause us to take action or not take action. Well, so we've got that in mind. But what does that really mean? How is that going to affect us when shit hits the fan? Right? We'll get there. It takes me a little bit to get warmed up. You guys know that. But, one of the earliest indicators as an adult where I saw fear influencing someone's decision was a friend of mine. He and I went to see Full Metal Jacket by Stanley Kubrick, a movie about Marine Corps boot camp and then the Vietnam War. I enlisted and he didn't. He was fearful. He saw what that movie was presenting. This is what the Marines is about. This is what the potential for war is about. Scared the shit out of him. His fear caused him to take a different action, right? He still enlisted in the Navy, but he didn't want to go in the Marines, right? So it affected his action. It didn't cause inaction, but it did cause a different action, right? I tell people when I speak to them, if I like them, I tell them Semper Fi. Not everyone I say that to is a Marine, and I don't really give a fuck what anyone else thinks. I can say it to whoever I want. I'm the Marine. I'm the one that earned it. I can say it whenever I feel like it. And no one has told me I can't say it to anyone else, right? But people have said to me, John, I'm not a Marine. I was in the Army. Or John, I wasn't even in the service. And I want to tell them, don't be afraid to be a human, right? It's okay. But, it just goes back to fear, right? Is someone threatening you? Is someone making you feel uneasy, nervous? Fear is huge in our lives. I would say a massive reason that people don't prep is they are fearful that they're making a bad decision. But what is that fear based on? It's what other people say, and it could be people that they respect. So they respect the other person. They don't want to go against what that person says. So they refuse or put aside prepping, right? My hotel manager, who's no longer my hotel manager, he's moved on 6 months ago. He knew what prepping was about. He knew the reasons why, but he chose not to. Right? A lot of people choose not to. But what does that tell us? What is going to happen when shit hits the fan? Right? Fear is interesting because there are people with personality types that make them decision makers, right? In the Briggs-Meyer system, anyone with a J at the very end of their letter system, Myers-Briggs MBTI system. There's 16 different personalities, and one of them is whether you are a judgment or decision maker or not. So decision makers tend to use fear to make their decisions. People who I call hesitants, they run from their fears. They don't want to make a decision. So which is better? I mean, really, just because you're willing to make a decision based on a fear, does that make it the right decision? Right? So where I'm going with this is when shit hits the fan, there's going to be preppers out there who aren't great decision makers, but they just recognize the facts that they need to prep. But I think the majority of preppers are decision makers. They see what's going on. They are fearful of what's happening, what the potentials are, what's coming right now. They're fearful of it, so they're making plans. Right? That fear is causing them to make positive decisions. That's my opinion. So the question I have for you is, are you a decision maker and you're using fear to help make the right decision? Or are you a hesitant? Right? Are you hesitant to make decisions and you rely on others for a variety of reasons? Or do you run from fear? All of these people are going to be alive when shit hits the fan starts. Right? Unfortunately, we're going to have every personality type out there known to man, and they're going to be interfering with you and your attempts to get through shit hitting the fan. But I happen to know that fear is the prime motivator as a human being. Why didn't you ask that girl out on a date? I was fearful of being rejected. Right? You could ask somebody who ran from a cop on foot or in a vehicle, and they'll say, well, I was afraid of the police. Yeah, well, you're running from them. So you're causing yourself more trouble by, letting that fear overwhelm you. Right? So, there's society or social conditioning causes us to be fearful. Social conditioning causes us not to go against the grain. Let's put it that way. Now, it's my opinion that anyone can be a prepper, hesitants or decision makers. But I think preppers are not socially bound. That is, they're not necessarily followers. Right? There's 5% of us out here on the planet are preppers. In the United States of America, anyways. Preppers. That leaves the other 95% are not. And there's a variety of reasons for not. They don't have the money, or they're completely ignorant of the subject matter. And that ignorance extends to ignorance about politics, diplomacy, war, economics, the monetary system, ignorant of psychology, basic psychology, basic human nature, right? They're ignorant of it, right? They don't know that this is how people are going to behave when things go bad. A lot of people have a kumbaya mentality. Hey, when shit hits the fan, we'll all just get along and we'll have to figure it out, right, everybody? While everybody is stabbing this person in the back and stealing their shit. Right? Is that a fear that I have? Yeah, and it's a well-founded fear. The fear that other people are going to try and take what I have and take my life in order to preserve theirs. So preppers are a number of things. I think they're more decision makers than hesitants, right? But they're not socially bound. Preppers are not socially bound. I'm not saying they're antisocial. I'm saying we're not socially bound. That is, restrictions and limitations upon what we should or shouldn't be doing. Right? That doesn't matter. We know what we should be doing. So I think you can say for the most part that preppers, just like everyone else, respond to fear, except we do it in a different way. Right? A lot of people run from fear. Other people use it to motivate, as I've said. And again, this is not about me being right. It's about me sharing an idea, and you get to think about it, because in your world, it's going to matter. So if you live in a neighborhood full of CEOs, CFOs, COOs, smart guys, corporate bigwig smart guys, they make decisions all day long. Bam, 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 pow, right? Now, I used to think that those guys were really smart. Since then, I've been changing my mind, especially since that dumb fuck who runs Starbucks said, you know what? Everyone can use our bathrooms. Everyone can sit around in our stupid restaurant, stupid coffee bistro. The guy has no idea what he's doing. So I take back any things I used to say about CEOs with a blanket statement. They're not necessarily smart. But for the most part, I think you would have to be smart to get close. But those guys make decisions all day long. But can you count on them when shit hits the fan to make good decisions? Right? Or will they be making bad decisions? Or will they be making hesitant decisions, being hesitant to make a decision, getting information from the wrong people, and letting fear, right? Fear control their bad decisions. We're going to see an awful lot of that. You know, this idea that when something bad happens, you run to a politician, right? Or a bureaucrat. You run and say, Mr. Politician, bureaucrat, what do we do? What do we do? Those people are fear-based. But what is it that everyone in government fears? They fear losing their job. They fear losing their power. So they make decisions for that reason, right? They want to control things. They want power. Do you necessarily, when shit hits the fan, want to have someone who's concerned about themselves and their power making decisions for you? For me, the answer is no. But I think most people will run to those people. Most Americans will run to politicians and bureaucrats to make their decisions. Because most people are hesitant and fearful when it comes to dealing with things they don't know about. So this study that you and I have done for years now, some of you guys a couple months, some a couple years, some a couple decades, right? You've got a lot of experience thinking about this, studying the situation. And I am extremely fearful when it comes to the idea of shit hitting the fan. This idea that, well, you're a jarhead, so you're not afraid. Well, hell yeah, I'm afraid. People that say no fear, right? And they got that kid with the arm bent like he's a muscle dude, and they put that on their car or their truck. You know, having no fear is stupid. Right? Being fearless, I think, is stupid. That doesn't mean you can't be a risk taker. We'll talk about that a little as well. Right? But people with no fear are dangerous. Right? You need to have fear. So even the smartest people, right, even the most prepared, they should have a good dose of fear when it comes to shit hitting the fan, and I'm one of them. Right? Because people are so unpredictable. But some of the things I can predict about them, as unpredictable as they are, I can predict that they're going to operate out of fear. So I say when shit hits the fan, we're going to have people that are, they're going to be nervous and uncertain. They're going to be fearful. They're going to be paranoid. They're going to be scared to death. Right? All of those things are going to be racing through their mind. What do we do? What do we do? And they're fearful. That means they're going to be making uninformed, unintelligent, rash decisions. And it's going to affect you. So you should be fearful and mindful. You know, just running around fear-based doesn't do a bit of good. You've got to be mindful, prepared. Right? There's going to be a lot of people out here, out in the world, and they're going to be making decisions, or rather, they're going to decide not to make a decision. They're going to sit on their hands and everything will be fine tomorrow, and they'll fix the problem by next week. And we don't need to do anything. Everyone just stay calm, do nothing, and the best will happen. There's a lot of people like that. To me, it's incredible. And towards them and that attitude, I'm completely incredulous. It's like people who have a retirement portfolio that they don't pay any attention to. They don't understand where their money's at or what it's doing. They're like, my broker takes care of that. You know, on a little side note, I was talking with a retired accountant today. His Corvette club was coming through town and stopped, and I spent some time talking with him, and he's making a ton of money, he thinks, in the stock market. And I said, well, you know, how do you manage your portfolio? He says, well, I argue with and he was an accountant. I argue with my broker, but my broker's the smart guy, so he makes the decisions. He's afraid to make a bad decision, so he lets someone else do it for him. Times are good right now in the stock market. Dow's at an all-time high practically, so he thinks he's shitting in tall cotton. Hell of a nice guy, though. You know, but he's afraid to make his own decision. Even though he spent a lifetime making enough good decisions, he's well off. Anyways, back to the idea of people not making decisions. they're just as dangerous to us. Right? So a big question is danger and fear, danger or fear-based non-decision. Is it okay to have them in your prepper group? The answer is yeah. Yeah. Right? Just because someone says, hey, look, I don't like to make decisions, that doesn't make them or disqualify them from being a prepper. It doesn't make them a bad prepper. It just means they're not good at making decisions. Right? They're going to be more of a follower type. Will they hurt you when shit hits the fan? I think that you need to think about their position, their roles. And a lot of this this fear they may have could be inexperience, or it could be just downright, inexperience or lack of knowledge. They want to be a prepper, but they just don't know, and they don't want to make those decisions. They're okay. Don't just throw them out. Don't say they're bad. They're not incompetent. They're not worthless. But they're going to need counseling. That can happen both before, like right now, when shit starts to hit the fan, and they'll learn in a hurry. Right? But I think counseling other preppers is important, that we know. I recognize you guys as being a source of valuable information, so I read comments, and I get an awful lot of emails every day. And I consider that counseling for my benefit. When someone shares their opinion with me, right, I want more information. And it's okay. It's okay not to be good at making decisions and not to know, as long as you're willing to learn and always be improving. Right? But, this idea of fear, it has its place, right? It's what caused one caveman to run from the bear and the other one to stand there and get mauled. The story about the caveman, I love using cavemen as an example of human development, evolution of human society, human civilization. Right? There are two cavemen or two non-cavemen, two ancient men, and one ran from the bear and one didn't. And the one who didn't run because he wasn't fearful, well, he got killed. And the other one that ran learned, well, if I run faster than the other guy, I live. So he learned his lesson. Right? That same caveman the next year said, we're all going to die unless we get into that cave, get some shelter from this ice age that's all around us. Right? And so one caveman said, well, I'm going to run because I heard that's what you do when you see a bear. And the other caveman said, well, if I run, right, that causes one thing. If I fight the bear and win, I get the cave. So he's fearful and mindful of the dangers of the bear. And he defeats the bear, and he gets the cave, and he lives through the winter. And the one who ran, well, he died of exposure. Right? So, fear is a powerful tool we need to understand, but it's our mindfulness, our preparation, our understanding of information that will allow us to use fear, right? Fear to understand a situation, fear to make our decisions, but also, right, fear to prompt us to act in ways proper. I hope that's coming through. Fear is a good thing. I think fear is a good thing, right? But letting it paralyze you, the proverbial deer in the headlights, right? You're driving down the road. From the deer's perspective, he sees two bright lights, confuses the deer. It's fearful. It just stands there, right? It doesn't realize that, 3 or 4 tons is coming down the road or more, and it's going to cream it. But the deer that doesn't take action, that deer gets killed. It doesn't understand the threat. Other deer that are they see a car and they run out in front of you and you run them over, they're acting on fear and they're just running without mindfulness of the threat. So if you're the deer and you understand the threat, the car, you're going to make a decision based on your fear. Hey, I don't want to get run over. Or, hey, I don't want to stand in the road. It comes down to education, I guess. And unfortunately, deer don't have a good public education system amongst themselves. Poor deer, man. Oh, yeah, poor deer. So, being a prepper, 5% of us out here. I hope you're fearful and I hope you're mindful. Right? When shit hits the fan, there's going to be an awful lot of it. Right? If everyone goes to watch a comedian, right? Say there's Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, Bill Burr, name your comedian. He stands up on a stage. You notice I didn't say Bill Cosby. Stands on a stage in front of, say, 10,000 people. Probably 99% or better are going to laugh at the jokes. They're going to laugh. They're going to learn from that. Well, when shit hits the fan, we're all going to be exposed to it, right? And it should scare everybody. Right, the reaction's going to be the same as standing in front of a comedian. Everyone's going to laugh. When shit hits the fan is in front of us all, we're all going to be fearful. Your understanding of what you're doing as a prepper is going to be what saves your bacon. It's going to save your ass. Understand that fear is out there. It's going to cause a lot of bad decisions. It's going to cause indecisions. Right? And I think mild fear, right, is one thing, but when you're faced with terror, what decision are you going to make? Now, I want to talk about school shooting at this point. You know, years ago, school shootings happened, and kids, you know, high schoolers, they were terrified. They laid down and got shot. You know, if the gunman came into their classroom, it would shoot them. The last couple of school shootings, what happened? A very small percentage of kids decided they were going to stick up for themselves, stand up for themselves. So while most of the class hid in the corner, hid behind desks, or did whatever they did, a few of the kids, you know, would get behind the door and wait for someone to come through it, and they were ready to club the shit out of them. We're seeing more of that now. You think that kid behind the door wasn't scared shitless? Oh, you bet he was. But he was prepared to take action based on a knowledge and understanding, mindfulness of the situation. You're in school, you start hearing gunshots, you pretty much know what's going on. Right? Shit is hitting the fan in a very real way. Right? The church shooting down in Texas by that Antifa punk. You know, he went into into the church, started killing people. The guy across the street pulled out his rifle and shot the guy, killed him. Right? He was fearful and he was mindful of the situation. Just last week, the gunman went into, it was either a restaurant, I believe it was a restaurant, wanted to start shooting people. I think he shot several people, didn't kill them, but near instantly, there was, I'm going to call this person a prepper. They were armed, had a concealed weapons permit, pulled their gun out, and they killed the guy. I guarantee they were fearful for a number of reasons. They were faced with the decision of protecting themselves or running or shooting the person and dealing with the consequences. And there's a lot of fear for those of us with concealed weapons permits. If I shoot the guy, am I in the right? Do I have a right to protect myself, and do I have a right to protect others? The law says yes. The law says yes. But there's still a great deal of fear. Will I get shot back? Will I become the prime target? Right? Mindfulness of situation. That's what prepping is about. It's not just about putting food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. The prepping is done up here. Right? And I want to thank you for coming on the channel with me and talking about these things. You know, sharing your ideas and your thoughts. Right? It's part of preparing yourself so that when shit hits the fan, you can be fearful, but we're also mindful. We're mentally prepared. There's going to be consequences if you do and consequences if you don't. Those kids in the school were ready to club people. Those people at that restaurant were ready to defend themselves. They are preppers. They were prepared to deal with it. And they were prepared to deal with somebody who's shooting, who's killing others. And it's very important, I think, for us to understand that attitude. There's going to be a lot of people willing, and there's going to be a lot of mistakes in Shit Hits the Fan. You'll make them. I'll make them. People will make mistakes that turn out to be the right decision, but for them at the time, they were probably very fearful, didn't know if they were making the right decision, but they had to. So this concept of fear, don't let it paralyze. Don't let it dissuade you from being a prepper. Right? And one of the big questions I have is, how will we know? How will we know when shit has hit the fan and we need to do it? Once again, that's a question based on fear. Will I make a decision too soon? Will I make a bad decision? Unfortunately, we won't know until the time comes. Now, of course, if you're in your house, hunkered down, bunkered in, and you hear gunshots all around your house for 2 days, you're pretty much guaranteed that that's shit hitting the fan. House fires, right, and the like. You pretty much got the idea that's what's going on. But that first hour, now the lights went out, you hear random gunshots here and there. As shit hits the fan, you don't know. Is it just local? Is it regional? Is it countrywide? Is it international? Right. That's going to have to be an as needed decision. But don't let fear paralyze you. In America, it really is held that if you fear for your life, you are allowed to defend yourself. First and foremost, against anybody, even those acting under color of law, are not exempt. That is, they can't just kill you because they feel like it. And you don't have to accept them wanting to kill you because they fear for their lives, right? When we get into that situation, not only are you dealing with fear, you're dealing with something that's nearly untenable. How do you come to grips with that? Right? That's what's going to precipitate and then aggravate the situation. That's why I say when something bad happens, a cyber attack, a stock market collapse, an interruption in the power supply, food supply, or fuel supply, it's going to be a small item that can be escalated by people's actions. Their uninformed decisions that they're going to make are going to cause other people to take actions that aren't necessarily good. Right? That's the escalation in stupidity based on their fears. Their fear of being hungry or trapped. Their fear of being killed. Right? There's going to be an awful lot of fear, but we need to look at it, I think, from a positive perspective. Fear is a great ally. You know, and how do you prepare for that? How do you plan for that? I think it comes down to experience, you know. But I really am proud of those kids in the school shootings who have decided they're going to stand up and they're not going to be victims. Right? They've got limited experience in life, and let's face it, school shootings don't happen every day. They don't happen at every school. They don't happen every year at every school once. It's an extremely rare occurrence. And those young men made the right decisions to stand up and at least fight for their life if presented with a very terrible situation. So if we can see young men making those decisions when shit is hitting the fan in a school shooting, then certainly when there is your neighborhood is getting it on, your city, you're going to know it's go time, and you're going to have to use fear in a very positive way. But again, I don't want to put down people who don't like to make decisions based on their fears. And counseling, talking to people in your group, talking to family members, whether it's your children or your spouse, about this subject will help take the negative part of fear away by talking to them. Right? I've talked to my kids, I've talked to friends, I've talked to coworkers. I don't, one, give a fuck what anyone thinks. Two, I think it's really important for them to be mentally prepared. This could happen. Not to scare them, but rather to inform them so that the subconscious portion of their mind starts working. And very briefly, everyone, or just about everyone, has heard of prepping. Seen the TV show. The concept of being prepared, like a Boy Scout. Right? There's going to be a lot of people that when shit hits the fan, they're going to go, oh yeah, I should have gotten ready. Right? They knew subconsciously that they should have been ready, but they just didn't make the right decision because of their fears. You might want to call them Monday morning quarterbacks. But when shit hits the fan, Monday morning is going to be too fucking late. There's going to be a lot of know-it-alls that go, oh yeah, I knew all about this. And they've got nothing to help them. And it's going to be a terrible situation for them. So, lesson learned, don't be a Monday morning quarterback prepper. Get your food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Get your plan together. Don't get caught off guard. And certainly, don't let fear, right, rule you. Use fear to prompt you, to motivate you, to inspire you, and to use and make good decisions. Because chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. God bless everyone. Thank you for supporting this channel and our efforts. Watch what's going on. The politics right now is off the hook stupid. There is tons of fear in politics. Like I said, they're afraid of losing their power and losing their jobs. A lot of them are afraid of going to jail. They're so fearful of being held accountable that they're willing to cause untold misery and pain for others because they have no moral foundation. They're evil, rotten, shitty people. And they're fearful. Right? One of the craziest things to watch is someone with a lot of power and they're about to lose it. Right? So, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good day. Like I said, stay frosty. Shit's gonna get stupid in the next few months. Until then, see you later.